Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends when you're watching this video. This is Mr. Argueta coming to you, Principles of Management week number 3. So a couple things, wanted to make sure I get you information in regards to what to expect, what we did last week, cover up on some of the conversations we had last week, and then of course let you know what's going on this week. First and foremost, most important, next week is week number 4, which means we are midway through this semester. That's how fast it goes. What you need to know for midterm. So midterm is a time quiz or time test exam, which will be given to you essentially like every other weekly quizzes. The questions on the weekly quizzes are going to be the questions I utilize for your midterm. That's your study guide. So make sure you are not just ignoring those questions because they're going to come back up. Not all of them, of course, but some of the questions on your quizzes will come back up. Did I say that right? Let me rephrase that. Your midterm will be comprised of questions that were in your weekly quizzes. Yeah, that's right. That said, I don't give study guide. I don't let you go back because then, obviously that wouldn't make any sense. I don't give you the right answers if you got the wrong answers during your weekly quizzes, because then it would be like giving you the answers. So I try to make it where you at least are challenged, for the most part. Other than that, last week, we had a great discussion regarding ethics. And of course, by now you have discovered that no one subscribes to just one ethical perspective. We utilize it depending on information, situations, people involved, all that good stuff. And most of us probably bounce around between the different perspectives and depending on what we're going through and what's happening in our lives. Now, a couple of things came up. One, of course, was the trolley, the train. Yes, very difficult question. I pray no one's ever in that situation. Obviously, at that moment, we can change our minds. That's perfectly normal, depending on the situation. It's of course, so many variables. And the reason why we do this is because we allow ourselves the opportunity to sort of understand other people. For those of you who saw the video and in a way gave me encouraging words in regards to the situation of my parents, I appreciate that. Thank you for always being fair and kind. I appreciate that. That's very nice. And I, put myself out there. I believe that there's a lot of people in society that only see one side of the story and don't see both sides of the story before coming to a conclusion. And that's my intention. I am not trying to convince you of anything, by no means. I believe that we all should have an opinion, and I respect that, and I respect if you disagree with me, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong in any of this. If that was the case, then obviously, life will be much easier and to a certain extent much harder because sometimes it works in our favor and sometimes it does not. So that all said, the other question that came up was the question about lying. And those of us who grew up in a faith-based environment, we tend to fall into a category called deontology. Deontology comes from a Latin root word deo, which is D-E-O. In Spanish, converting that to the modern Spanish, there's a word called Dios, D-I-O-S, which is God in translated into English. And we believe, or for some of us, the belief system says that God is the ultimate authority and the one who sets the rules. Now, I'm not influencing your decision on this. I'm just explaining it. I'm not trying to convert you to anything. So in regards to God setting the rules, we believe in this sort of universal mandate from God, and he dictates what's right and what's wrong. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. That's just what it is. And therefore, when we get a question like, is it ever okay to lie? We tend to revert to that ethical mindset and say, no, it's not okay to lie. However, to give you another side of the perspective there, for those of you who felt that, typically we view it from a perspective of lying being bad because we're lying for our own gain. However, lying in itself, in it and by itself, is not necessarily the full story. That's only half. Why we lie is the other side of this. And I usually try to keep it light. I don't want to go into deep conversations because we can't, go back and forth other than our discussion. But lying in it, I can't say it. I don't know why I'm getting tongue tied on this, but on its own looks really bad. But when we consider all aspects of what the purpose of the lie was, then we start getting into this sort of ethical dilemmas. For example, one scenario I bring up in faith-based conversations is a story of Rahab, which is in the Bible. And Rahab in the Old Testament is a prostitute in a place where the Israelites were sent 12 people to spy. And Rahab hid the spies, and when her government came to seek these invaders to their country or their territory, asked Rahab, have you seen or do you know where these spies are at? Rahab lied and said, no, I don't know who they are, even though she hid them. It kind of resembles a lot of what happened during World War II and the Nazi era. People of Germany that were with a conscience and kind-hearted hid Jewish people from getting massacred and killed, and lied to their government saying, I don't know, I've never seen them. Anne Frank being a very famous figure story. When I was in Amsterdam, I went to the Anne Frank Museum. My son and I were able to go and sit there and see where this happened. Very, very interesting that this is still around today. To me, it's fascinating. But anyhow, that said, we would say that lie is good, right? That was a good lie because it benefited the greater good, or utilitarian perspective. Now, some people's faith says, well, it doesn't matter. I'm never going to lie. I'm going to tell the truth, and God will find a way. Hey, I respect that. That's your faith. I'm not challenging that. What I am saying is that there are certain situations where lying might not be by itself bad. It's why we lie that's bad. The reason behind it, the heart behind the lie. If I had to lie to save my family from something, I will do it. I understand that some people don't agree with that, and that's perfectly fine. But if I had to lie to save someone's life, I will say yes. I don't know. As a matter of fact, going back to the biblical story of Rahab then proceeds to tell these people Israelites who are going to essentially invade her country or territory and take it over. She says, don't hurt me, don't harm my family, keep us safe. And they say, well, put this out in front of your door and then we won't harm you. And they do, and they come in and they slaughter a bunch of people and kill women and men, and all this stuff happens, and they spare her. Not only that, not only was she blessed in being spared, but Rahab later on comes up because Rahab, if you read through Matthew and they go through the genealogy of Christ, Savior, then we see how Rahab was named in that genealogy as Jesus's great grandmother. That's the same Rahab. She was blessed, and she was blessed because she lied, and that's. It's a powerful story, and it shows us sort of the underlying concepts of ethics. There's certain things that are not clear cut, and the deontological, like any other ethical perspective, has its flaws and its shortcomings. So we have to consider those things when we look at all these decisions, and not only when we make them, but when others make decisions. It's not clear cut. That said, this week we shift over to a analytical perspective, or not analytical, a tool called a SWOT analysis, SWOT. And I give you a actual picture of what a SWOT analysis should look like. It should not be a list of things. It should be in those quadrants, in the 4 quadrants like I displayed. A strength, a weakness, an opportunity, and a threat. So there's the 4 quadrants, and you put them in there, and it's internal. The strengths and weaknesses are internal to your company. The weaknesses and threats are external. As we read last week in chapter 3, a business cannot exist on its own. It exists in an environment. Externally, there's things that influence if we succeed or don't succeed. I always give an example of a taco truck, but this year I'm going to shift it because I'm going to talk about a pizza. The pizza topic is becoming more and more prevalent to me because it hurts me that I can't have good pizza in Northwest Georgia. But so let's say that I decide to open up a pizza place that has Chicago style pizza. Now I am not talking about deep dish pizza. That's for tourists. Let me repeat that there. Deep dish pizza is not for the average Chicagoan. It's for tourism. We eat regular pizza, thin crust pizza. But my strength that goes in that quadrant, in that section, is going to be that I am going to use quality ingredients, a combination of cheeses that gives a different flavor, fennel Italian sausage, which is different than the Italian sausage that you see in pizza today here, and good quality pepperoni. I like sausage and pepperoni pizza. I'll add mushrooms every now and then, but standard thin crust pepperoni sausage. All right, I'm going to cut them into squares because that's what we do. They're called tavern style pizzas. I'm going to offer that in Dalton, and this is my environment, right? And there are some decent pizzas here. I'm not going to bash them. Cherokee Pizza or Cherokee Brewery is decent. It's okay. It's not bad. But then there's pizzas that are not so good. Little Caesars and some of those other guys, the chain ones, right? So my strength is that I'm offering a pizza that is very different than what we have here. So it's a different product. People are going to come to me because not only do they want pizza, they want good pizza. On top of that, some of the weaknesses are on the other side is that I am not going to have cheap product. My pizza is going to probably be in the $15, $18 range, depending on size, right? $20 range. It's not going to be $5 hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars because the quality is better. The pizza is better. So I'm going to have a weakness in that. What are some of the threats? Anyone can do it. Anyone in this class can be like, hey, he's got a good idea. I'm going to open up my own pizza place, use the same ingredients, do the same thing. What are some of the opportunities? Opportunities is that we have a very diverse environment in Dalton, in Rome, in Calhoun, in Ringgold. People want good quality food. They're tired of this junk that we eat here. They're tired of the options we have, and they don't want to drive to Chattanooga. So there's opportunity. What are some of the threats as well is that people also have moved into this gluten-free option. They want to be healthier. They don't want to eat bad things for them. So that might be a challenge, a threat to my business. The other thing is that, like I said, it is an environment where everything thrives here. I'm competing against a whole bunch of other things. So look at that from internally, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? But externally, in this environment that I'm in or that you're in, what are some of the opportunities and threats that might exist on the outside of your business? Because that's what's going to determine where you position your business. That said, the discussion leads to you selecting a company that you know. Don't make up a company you know, either locally or a company you recognize, something that you can do an actual SWOT analysis about. Remember, you have to use the format. You will be deducted points if you just list opportunities and threats and weaknesses and strengths. It's not a list. It has to be represented in those quadrants. So please do that. Other than that, it is getting cold outside. We're busting out our sweaters. We're no longer seeing these high 80s. Now we're in the low 70s, mid 70s. So that being said, stay warm, stay hydrated. Hopefully, I keep using antihistamines to control these allergies, but I'm getting there. The other thing is, what do you think about the new camera view? We got the new camera installed here. We're looking at my coffee table there and my little valet. I put the little hat just so you guys can see something there. But this is the new camera view. This is my microphone. I'm going to get another microphone, and I'm going to be interviewing people in regards to these topics. I think it'll be interesting. Not all of them, but in some cases, I think it'll be interesting to hear other points of view. So stay tuned, guys. I hope you're enjoying the class. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time. Take care. Hey, by the way, next week, no discussion since it's midterm. There's no discussion, so you'll be 1 week off without discussions. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.